Internal power. What is internal power? That seems to be the million-dollar question. To be honest with you, I've never met anybody in the West, or even in the world for that matter, that could tell me exactly what it is. I know what it is, but not too many people do, it seems. It's a very misunderstood concept. I don't really want to refer to it as internal power in the sense that it's some sort of weird, mysterious thing, because it's not. It's pure physics. But I'll refer to it as base power. Now, what I mean by base power is it's the power that you start with. It's the origin power. Other things can be added to it, like chicken power that I showed you in the video, and can compound it and make it really devastating and very impressive. Now, what base power basically is you'll hear a lot of people talk about, oh, chi, the chi rises, the chi falls. Chi is a cop-out. It's a sort of a metaphorical term for somebody that really does not know what's happening, doesn't know what's going on. It's abused a lot. It's used to confuse people. I'll talk to people and they'll be told, oh, the chi is with it. They don't have a clue. Okay? Basically, base power is this. Chi, whatever you want to call it. It's the channeling of the potential power that is in the earth, the ground, up through to the target. And there's a process by which we do this efficiently. Now, everybody that hits with the power of the ground, but some people, because of the way they're standing, because of the way that they've been taught, there's a big disconnect in there, and so you've got the powers are flowing very well, and so you get a real watered down blow, or a watered down strike. The 98%, I would say, of all hits and strikes performed in the martial art today fall under that category of watered down blows and hits. How is this accomplished? Well, in two ways. Excuse me, two ways basically. One, you can move your body forward and project your way into them, or you can use the ground as leverage to push against to deliver your blow. Okay? Now, the very first punch that you learn in Bandoquan is the straight jab. And the straight jab is performed as follows. It's just a step forward, and your hand turns a little bit, your shoulders, the rest of the body, and you drive the punch not with your shoulders like most people do, but with the entire weight of your body coming forward. Now, some people will say, oh, that doesn't look like a very powerful punch, but think about this. If you take a telephone pole, the kind that is made out of one big tree trunk that they string wires from along the roadsides, and you hang it from the ceiling by two chains, and you give it a big push, and it swings back and forth slowly, okay? When it swings back, put your head up in there and let it hit it. It'll smash your skull. It's not moving very fast. It doesn't look like there's a lot of power, but it's got tremendous base power because gravity is bearing down on it, and it's rooted to the ground by the ceiling, which is connected to the ground by the walls. See how it works. Now, this power is extremely effective for striking, and kicking, anything else. Even grappling, this base power is used for that also. One thing that you do have to do, though, is you have to establish yourself in a good stance to channel this power. Stance training is something that I find largely absent from a lot of modern martial arts. They tend to get on the toes of their feet, dance around, and when the blow comes, they come in, but they're not really connected to the ground because they just haven't got the rooting, and the punch may land and might cause some blood, but it's not going to knock anybody out. When you hit somebody with a powerful blow that is rooted in base power, it's going to shut them down. And also, we hit to the body's center line, the spine. Every time you hit, you want to hit going directly toward the spine, because what this does is your power is going to go in an arc from your rear foot, and sometimes from the front foot, depending on what your stance is in. But in this particular stance, where I'm kind of holding the back stance, the power is going to go from the rear foot up in an arc to your hand. Now, when I hit somebody and use that base power, that arc is going to connect with their spine, which is their origin point of rooting to the ground based on their balance. And it's going to continue in this dynamic circle, which means they're going to absorb the entire force of what I'm giving them in this hit. And when that happens, it's generally referred to as a shutdown blow or a knockout blow. I'm going to demonstrate to you the effectiveness here of this type of power. Now, if you look behind me here, I'm standing here for a reason. If you look behind me here, this is it's a bulletin board. But the material that it's made out of is compressed cardboard type paper. Now, this board, it's almost 5 times tougher than human skin. And if you push, and I'm leaning against it, and I'm putting all my weight, I've got 1 foot up off the ground, and I'm creating an arc with my body, leaning against it. There's just a little dimple here where I pressed, and then it comes back out. There are a few places, like right up here, where you can see a few dimples and things right here. That's the result of somebody firing a slingshot with steel shot in it at the board. And that is, that's what kind of force it takes to put a dent in this. Now, I'm going to move the camera around here to where we can see exactly what's going on. Now, this guy over here. Okay. Basically, I'm going to hit this, and I had some of the students in my class, punch this board before, and basically it just leaves a little dimple and then it goes back out because this is really compressed. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come forward with a straight jab. Now, I'm only going to be standing on one leg. When you go with the jab, it's just on one leg. Okay, your jab hits, and then if you're going to come in with a cross, you root with the leg by dropping it down in a stomp or a sliding stomp onto the floor. I'll explain that in another video about punching. But for the time being, here we go. And you can see my 3 knuckle marks. And those knuckle marks are in there for good. And this may seem kind of, well, big deal, it could be just rigged or set up. If you were here and you could actually see and feel the tremendous strength that this material has, you would appreciate this. That's what internal power really is. You're transferring that power from the ground into your target. And there has to be a particular stance that roots you to the ground. Your body has to be relaxed. And one of the most important things is your fist has to be really, really tight. If you've ever take a sledgehammer with a steel head, cast iron head or whatever, and strike a vase, the vase just shatters. It's because the vase does not have the strength to absorb the blow of the sledgehammer. It hits it, it breaks it wide open. Punch the sledgehammer with your hand, and your hand absorbs that because the sledgehammer is harder. The harder object, in most cases, there's some exceptions, the harder object is going to transfer that force into the softer object, and that being your body. So, this is how internal power works, and I'll elaborate on it more in future videos.
What's important here is not what you see, but what you don't see. You do not see the power that is being projected into the target, but it's there. When the power reaches the spine, it travels both upward and downward. It ricochets back downward when it reaches the top of the spine at the junction of the brain. Now, this kind of power shuts down the opponent or can do severe damage to him. This power is channeled from the ground through a relaxed body. I had a student later on in the day after I recorded this, and I was demonstrating this technique, and he wanted to hit the wall. Well, he pulled back and he hit the wall full force, and he recoiled from the hit, and his knuckles were just orange, and his hand was shaking uncontrollably. What happened was his body was not adjusted and relaxed enough to project the power into the wall and down into the floor where it should go in such a technique. Instead, the power was reflected back into his hand, and it did lots of damage.
I know there's a lot of people that will say, oh, he just doesn't understand the workings of chi. And I've talked to these people before. And one of my counters to them is, okay, put up. Show me how it works. And they're like, oh, it's esoteric, martial, okay. They can't. I can show them how it works, but they can't show me how it works. They keep insisting that there's some mysterious life force power out there and you can tap into it. Yeah, there is a power you can tap into, but it's physics, it's physical power. The Chinese who developed this stuff did not have invasive surgical methods. They did acupuncture, acupressure, things like that. They didn't really make a habit of cutting the body open and investigating. Now, I'm not saying the Western medicine has all the answers by any means, but they developed this framework that they thought that this is how it works, and some people will tell you, well, you must accept this, you must understand this. You can't accept it because you're usually completely Western philosophy and Eastern philosophy are night and day. They're very polar opposites. So if you go through life practicing this martial art or any others, thinking that there's some weird mystical power out there that you have yet to achieve, you're not completely wrong, because there's different levels of skill and you're always transcending to a new level of skill. And if you live for 1,000 years, you'd have probably 1,000 years, different levels of skill. But there's no thing out there that's just constantly eluding you, that you've got it. You've got it right now. If you can't realize it, you're not doing it right. And that's all I really have to say on it. People who insist that there's some weird mystical force out there that flows through your body, they're misinterpreting things. For example, chi is defined in a lot of books as oxygen. You get chi from the air. Well, air is energy, and there's oxygen in the air. But to suggest that the chi travels all the way down the body center to the dantian, the air stops at the bottom of the lungs. Fact. Okay? What they're describing is a sensation. What they're describing is biomechanical utilization of these lines of power and these movements that bring about those powerful issuances of power. And if that's really all I have to say about it. You can believe what you want, but do you want to make progress? Do you want to actually come up with that world famous hamburger, or you just want to fantasize about it all the time? That's what we're talking about. I found that people who are overly cryptic and vague about their martial arts practices and techniques are pretty much full in most cases. They're just out there searching for the same things you are. And I prefer to deal with the hardcore, the nuts and bolts, because in the end, when you get in a fight or something, you want to be able to put up. You want to be able to use your skill to get you out of it and to live to fight another day. You don't want to go in there and find out that your philosophy is all just a pile of crap.